Now, the gnarlier the terrain, the more work you and your bike have to do. So before you disappear off to tell stories about how awesome the day was, spend 10 minutes at the end of your ride checking the bike over to make sure it's good for the next day of exploring. The terrain up here in the Himalayas is fully unpredictable. You've got random sharp edges, sharp stones, things that you didn't expect to see, so your wheels take an absolute hammering. First thing to do is to run your hand around the rim, feeling for any bulges or deformities. Then do the same for the sidewall of the tyre, on both sides, and finally, a visual inspection of the tread surface. We're looking for chunks, cuts, things that are going to end up becoming a puncture later on. Next thing to check while we're down here at the wheels is the spoke tension. Spoke wheels are designed to flex and absorb the bumps to keep you riding even when the terrain gets super gnarly. But you need to make sure those spokes stay tight. Easy way to do that is to play a little tune. If a spoke is loose, you'll get a really flat dud sound like that. Riding off-road in muddy and dusty conditions does accelerate the wear on your brake pads, so you're going to want to check them at the end of each day's ride. To do that, have a look in the rear of the rear caliper, or you can look straight on the front caliper. What we're looking for is to make sure there is at least 2 millimeters of this material on the backing plate. You don't want to wear down below that, because if the backing plate contacts the disc, it damages your disc as well. If your pads need changing and you're organised enough to remember to bring some with you, it's a few steps to do it. Step 1, push the pad back in the caliper. Just a firm pressure on the front of the caliper to get it sliding so there is room between the disc and the pads. Next, we need to remove the safety pin from the brake pads. Just on the back of here, the little R-clip pops out. Keep that somewhere safe, don't lose it. To remove the pin, you're going to need a small Allen key to push in this hole, and then nature's hammer, aka a rock, to knock the pin through. With the pad pin removed, you can slide out the pads one at a time, ready for replacement. When we go to put the new pads back in, this front section of the pad needs to sit on the shelf at the front of the caliper. Once both pads are in and the pin is pushed as far home as you can with your hands, you're going to need to use your rock and Allen key again to tap the pin all the way home. So with the pad pin all the way home, there's 2 more super important steps. Step 1, get the safety pin back in. If the safety pin won't go in, it's probably because you haven't pushed the pad pin fully forward. Finally, and I can't stress how important this one is, pump the brake pedal up and then check the function of the rear brake by turning the wheel, pushing the pedal with your hand. So that's how to do the rear pads. The front pads are exactly the same procedure. At the end of every day, it's worth checking the fluids on the bike. First up is the coolant, which you'll be able to see in this window here on the side panel. You want to make sure that the coolant level is between the 2 lines. If it isn't, it's going to need topping up so that your bike doesn't overheat. Secondly, you're going to want to check your oil level. The oil level needs to be between the 2 lines in this window here. If it's a bit low, you're going to want to top it up in the filler cap there. When you're done, pop the filler cap back on, and if you've spilt any oil on the engine case, you're going to want to wipe it off. Best thing for that? Your buddy's riding shirt. Just don't tell him what you're up to. Next up, we're going to check the chain tension. To do that, we're going to use the graduated spanner that comes in the Himalayan toolkit. Hold the spanner against the swinging arm in line with the rubber strip. Then move the chain up and down, and you can get a measurement for the slack. You need to set that measurement within the range specified in the manual for the bike. If the chain slack needs adjusting, we're going to do it as follows. Take the 24mm spanner and the extension and place it on the axle nut. Using the 6mm Allen key, you can hold the axle securely and loosen the rear axle nut. It doesn't need to be all the way undone, just slightly slack. With the axle loose, the tension is adjusted using the 6mm Allen bolt on the back of the swinging arm. Turn it clockwise to tighten the chain, counterclockwise to loosen it. Each time you make an adjustment, make sure the wheel is pushed fully forward in the swinging arm so that the tension adjusters are tight against the back of the swinging arm. When you're happy with the adjustment, hold the axle still again and retighten the axle nut. Once it's tight, recheck the tension, lubricate the chain, and you're good to go. So that's it for adventure prep. You're ready to go, you're ready to explore, and you're ready to do what the Himalayan does best, adventure.